Okay, I know that you're going to be eating while I speak, so I'll try to speak loudly. And you'll notice that the word transportation is right there. What I heard in Washington, D.C. this past January at the Transportation Research Board annual meeting does not only deal with transportation, but the federal initiative to reduce the time frame for project development was, what I heard was focused on transportation and will extend to all other types of program and project development. What I heard, the standard way, the routine way, the status quo of project development, and the advancements of projects to the delivery process, or through the delivery process, may not be the most necessary, or may not necessarily be the best way to develop projects. And so, henceforth came this federal initiative to come up with an opportunity to explore different ways of project delivery to reduce the time frame of developing projects by 50%. Now, I must preface this presentation. As it says here, the origins of this presentation stem from what I heard at the TRB annual meeting. And yes, the subject of streamlining makes me cringe. And I don't know how many of you have heard the term streamlining for the past 12 years, but starting with T21 in 1998, streamlining has been an emphasis in transportation project development. And over those 12 years, what I've seen are more lengthy project schedules and more lengthy project documents. And so I question, and I'm skeptical of whether or not streamlining has worked and will ever work. What I'm not skeptical about is the opportunity we have as project developers, environmental practitioners, NEPA practitioners, to take this advantage of, with this new initiative, to explore how we can more effectively advance projects through the NEPA process and to make the NEPA process more effective. So, the purpose of today's meeting is, number one, to talk about the philosophy behind the initiative, because the philosophy is a very sound philosophy coming out of Washington, D.C. Talk about 10 practical ways to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the NEPA process, and then to give some background on the NEPA process and where things have gone awry, what really actually causes project delays in the project development field. Now, I take NEPA very seriously. This is me on Grand Cayman Island studying this book in 1995 called Mastering NEPA. It's an excellent book. It's out of print though, but if you can find a copy, it's well worth the read. Now, I hear some of you snicker about the picture, and the photograph is quite funny, although my wife didn't think it was funny at the time. But I put it up there for a point. Being a competent NEPA practitioner or project developer requires a lot of effort and it requires continual study. Things constantly change, and to effectively navigate through the NEPA process, you have to be aware of what's on the books now. For instance, you should be thoroughly, if you're in the transportation field, you should be very knowledgeable of the statewide metropolitan planning and programming regulations, the FHWA NEPA implementing regulations, 23 CFR 771, 6640.8A, the FHWA's NEPA guidance on, and so these are the things that we should be very familiar with as NEPA practitioners. And then there's things that will be coming out, like the new reauthorization, transportation program reauthorization to replace safety loop. And so there's going to be a whole new aspect of things that we need to learn. Not to mention CEQ's guidance that is up for review on greenhouse gas emissions and how to consider that issue during the NEPA project development process. So I might look relaxed, but I wasn't. I was studying really hard. Yeah, right. Okay, now the 50%, cutting the project development process by 50%, granted that might be over the top, but the philosophy behind the initiative is sound. And the philosophy emanates from this concern about the economy and jobs. The concern in Washington that I heard was that delays result in higher project costs, higher costs lead to fewer dollars lead to fewer projects lead to fewer jobs leads to economic decline. That's a real concern. And we see it in our profession. There's been a lot of retraction in the size of programs, and it's affecting everything that we do. Okay, the objectives of the initiative are also very sound. Number one, to identify what the embedded barriers to efficient project delivery are, and then shatter them. Try to eradicate what the barriers are to efficient project delivery, and then reverse the trend of increasing unnecessary project delays. Time is money. Every year of delay can mean millions of dollars in project costs. And so, before we get into the meat of the presentation, I ask you to consider these three questions. What are the embedded barriers to efficient NEPA project delivery in Texas, and can they be shattered? What is an unnecessary project delay, and how can it be eliminated? Hint, hint. An unnecessary project delay is a delay that is not necessary. And so, what can be done to eliminate unnecessary delays? And then what can be done today to cut out the time frame and cost of doing NEPA or project delivery? First things first, let's review the origins and intent of NEPA, the NEPA process itself, and the average time frame to complete EISs and EAs. First and foremost, the NEPA law and the implementing regulations of NEPA really focus on a process of decision-making and disclosure. So you hear that the NEPA process is a decision-making process and a public disclosure process. Yes, part of it is, but there's much, much, much more. And I don't know how many of you have actually read the NEPA law that was signed in 1969 that ultimately became law in January 1st, 1970. If you read the first section of NEPA law and the first section of CEQ's NEPA implementing guidelines, the 40 CFR 1500 regulations, you'll see this. The intent of NEPA, it is our basic national charter for the protection of the environment. It is to foster and promote the general welfare of present and future generations of Americans. It is to maintain conditions under which man and nature can exist in productive harmony. Those are profound statements codified in NEPA itself, the first chapter, first section of NEPA. And so the NEPA process is much more than a process. It is an aspect of stewardship. And so if you want to, I encourage you to read the NEPA law and see what NEPA really was meant to be, and consider where it has gone since. So, as I said, NEPA promotes stewardship. And stewardship involves not just, it involves three very important characteristics. Serving an important need. Your project should serve an important need, not just utilize resources to build something. It should enhance the environment. Your projects should be geared to enhance the environment, not just mitigate